Hello everyone, I hope you guys are doing well and studies are going in full swing. In today's video, we are going to discuss about your study plan and your strategy for your revision for your CA final financial reporting. This is especially for students giving their September 25 as well as January 26 exams. Now in this video, I'll discuss the number of hours that you should allot for your FR, the sequence that you should ideally try to follow, the things that you should remember especially while doing your financial reporting, and things that you should remember so that you don't panic while you do your reporting, your financial reporting, and this kind of gives you your dedicated exemption and even a lot more. So let us get started. First of all, over here, this is a study plan that I will share on my Telegram channel. The link for this is there on the in your description, so you can access this from the Telegram channel. Over here we have given 3 separate study plans. Ideally, the study plan that I've put in red is the study plan that I would try to follow if I were to revise this. Now, on an average, how many hours? The first question is, how many hours should we allocate for our financial reporting for the first revision? I would say around 140 to 150 hours is the apt number of hours ideally when we look at our first overall revision. Again, if you kind of are a theory type of a student and numbers kind of create a little bit of problem, you want to do your first revision properly, you dedicate a little more times, that's close to 160 to 170 hours. And if numbers and financial reporting, you have done a lot of audit, a lot of reporting in your articleship and you're fairly comfortable, then anywhere between around 120 to 130 hours, but ideally around 135 to 150 hours would be something which is ideally needed for your financial reporting. And if I count maybe an 8 to 10 hours, let's say on an average, let's say 9 to 10 hours of time on a per day basis, that will take close to around 12 to 15 days for you to complete this entire course. 12 days being at the lower end if you're studying a lot of hours effectively, but realistically at your starting maybe around 15 days is what it will take for you to complete your financial reporting in a fairly diligent manner. Now that is the hours. Now there are a few things that you should kind of remember, we'll come to that, but in terms of hours, I would say anywhere between 135 to 150 hours is the time frame that you should have, and that will be around 13 to 15 days in terms of effective days that you will try to spend behind this subject. Now you go to the sequence. In terms of the sequence, well, you can go in any sequence you like, but preferably I would try to balance this out between doing some indices so that you get that momentum. Okay, every index will get done in a day, you are doing 2, 3 indices, that will give you the momentum. And then going into the bigger chapters like a financial instrument, a business combination, consolidation, revenue and leases, so that you are able to kind of balance this off pretty well. So the sequence over here would be, you will try to go to the asset link standards, that is index 16 for PP, intangibles, investment property, impairment. You would know all of this, it is written over here, and I've given you the time that you should be spending, and there is some section to kind of write down the time that you have actually taken. Because if this is 6 hours over here and you took 10 hours, you know that you have to push the pedal a little more. 6 ka maybe 6.5, 7 is absolutely fine, but going up to 10 and 12, well, you know that you are taking a lot more time because it will eat up your other chapters or maybe other subjects. So keeping that handy would be helpful. Over here I've also written the important or last day revision questions. These are questions where you should have a special emphasis on, but these are not the only questions that you should do in your first revision. The first revision is a time where you want to refresh the concepts, build up your understanding, and hence even the concept builder questions you should glance through. However, a special emphasis should be given to the last day revision questions, though if you are short of time or if you are going into the second revision, it is okay if you just review the summary for the other questions and mainly focus on these important last day revision questions. So for every chapter we have given these important last day revision questions. It is very recently updated, even including the important questions that have come in the November 24 or even in the May 25 exams, which you should kind of refer. So over here, you will first start with the asset link standards. That will take close to around 30 hours of your time. If you want to do the MCQs, if you have time, maybe doing the ICI BOS MCQs chapter wise, or maybe trying the MCQs from our question bank, the soft copy of which we have shared on the Telegram channel or even on the Google Drive. That should kind of help you. So going into that sequence and doing MCQs, if you have time, would work. If you don't have time, it's fine. If you're good with concepts, MCQs kind of flow through better, but doing at least the institute MCQs, they will not be repeated, but will give you some kind of confidence for I mean, you are not going to then wander and say, should I do MCQ, should I not? No, you know that MCQs, once you do your main concept, MCQs will flow through fairly well, and you will mark out those MCQs where you had a problem, and then later just refer them. Don't need to review anything else again, at least on the MCQ side. Now, once you're done with the asset link standards, you can go into the share-based payment and financial instrument section. Now, financial instruments over here give its dedicated share of time for financial instruments. Though for these bigger topics, remember what comes in the exam, whether it is revenue, lease, financial instruments, business combination, consolidation, is a numerical part. That is not to say that you will not do the theory part. You can do that, but remember the special emphasis over here will be on the numerical questions: loans at off-market rates, compound financial instruments, derecognition of financial liabilities, derivative accounting is where your major part will be. Now, ideally, this will take in totality around 30 odd hours again, plus I would say that if you still have the momentum, do leases over here. In my core plan, I have given leases and revenue at the end, but usually in our experience, what we have seen is by the time you reach the end, you have kind of some burnout in financial reporting, and most of the students kind of are then just pushing through or leaving altogether revenue and lease, which is not what I would recommend. So if you have something left in you after financial instruments, probably do lease over here, because if you have done lease earlier, you know that a lot of these lease liability calculations, etc., spill over fairly seamlessly from amortized cost financial liability workings, and hence they will happen quite fast. And hence, probably if I were you, I would try to squeeze in lease over here and not do it later, so that my lease, which is an important topic, is kind of done. Now, after this is done, you now want to kind of do certain smaller topics. EPS is something which has a good spillover effect from financial instruments, like convertibles, etc. are done a lot, so you do EPS now. And also employee benefits, which has a lot of, again, these amortized costs like lease liability and defined benefit liability workings here. So you do at least these two, and then do a few other smaller topics like Ind AS 1, 8, 10, interim reporting, cash flow, which can get you back into momentum after kind of being drained out by doing bigger topics. So over here, a few other relatively simple topics, and over here you can just push the pedal and do it relatively faster. Next, you move on into the group accounting. Over here, along with group accounting, two indices. One especially for deferred taxes, that is income tax Ind AS 12, you should do, because it is institute's favorite adjustment in business combination as well. So do deferred tax, and then you can kind of jump on into business combination. Then do consolidation, including subsidiaries and joint ventures. Though to be honest, subsidiary accounting is more important, and the consolidation, bigger problems of subsidiary is what usually come in the exam. In business combination, the parts pertaining to purchase consideration, net asset working, and the bigger business combination questions is what really lands up in your exam. So have special emphasis on that. And a lot of adjustments pertaining to holding subsidiary, financial instruments are also there in foreign exchange. So over here, I would want you to do the foreign exchange standard as well. So this will take a good 45 hours. Over here, you should spend some time at least doing 3 full sums of business combination, 3 full sums at least of consolidation on pen and paper, in the format, in the method, in a manner you do in the exam with notes and everything. So that gives you a good flow of thought over here. Next, you will complete all the other indices. There was one more thing over here, along with leases and liabilities, rather than keeping revenue right at the end, because revenue is something which comes every time in the exam, and most of the students keep revenue for the end. So rather than keeping it for the end, if you have some steam left, again, as an optional thing I've said, you can do revenue after you have done leases and disclosures part, which will be very helpful, because you don't have to do it at the end, and don't risk leaving it. If you have to kind of risk leaving something, maybe the theory topics of technology, conceptual framework, etc., or maybe something like related parties, segment reporting, first time, well, these are things that you can touch upon and manage, but not revenue and lease. You should not keep it for the end. So over here, you can probably put in revenue earlier if that works with you, but a lot of students find it very exhausting to kind of do all of these big chapters. Then you can do it at the end. That will also work, but you should do it. Remember, don't leave this. After you're done with other indices, and if you are doing revenue and lease, then over here, then at the end you do the theory topics, which is conceptual framework, technology and ethics. You expect 4 marks at least, plus another 4 marks of an optional question, which can come from this section. But nevertheless, this is something that you might have to attempt, so kind of do this. Now, this is regarding the sequence, the hours, etc. The things that I want you to remember for your first revision especially is over here, give it time. A lot of students try to do it in 100, 120, 115 hours, and then they kind of lose the momentum, because it is not a subject which can be done by just reading it through as fast. Maybe DT is as big, you can still cover it, maybe because you would have done your coaching relatively recently. Usually for FR, from wherever you have done it usually during your articleship, and that is the time, maybe a few months or a year or so before you would have done this, and hence recollecting those concepts with all this volume is going to take its fair share of time. To not rush through this, otherwise you're going to unnecessarily panic and kind of freak out. Secondly, the way you kind of try to approach the revision is try to watch the revision videos first. Watch the revision video first and then kind of go ahead and do the revision, because this is a subject that you would have done quite some time back, and hence if you want to kind of remember this, remember in your 18-20 years of studying career, this is the first time where you have a 2-year gap probably before your exams. Otherwise it was one exam, probably going to your coaching, then doing self-study, and then you're writing the exam. This is something that you have done 1.5 years back, then you have to revise it, and this is where you expect that I have done this properly during my class, I should remember it. You will not. It was done 1.5 years back. You expect that to be remembered? No, it's not humanly possible. It was not possible for me, not for your seniors, not for you. So don't have that unrealistic expectation that everything will be solved the moment you're doing your first revision. It will take its own share of time. And it is normal, very, very important. It is very, very normal over here, especially for FR and AFM, to not remember stuff while you are revising, because it has been done quite some time back. Unlike a DT or IDT, which was done a few months or a weeks back, this is done a year back. You're not going to remember everything, and that is why you give. How do I then manage this? Give it time and watch a revision video before you go into this, so that you have a relatively clear understanding, and then you jump into it. But when you're doing it, have that frame of mind that I'm doing this for the first time. Trust me, if you go with that and give that 15 odd days properly, your second revision is going to smoothly sail through. But if you expect that you read a question and you should be able to solve it, then to be honest, you don't need a second and third revision. That is not going to happen. You are going to read the question, you are going to try, you are going to falter, you might not remember, and then you will have to see the solution and then understand and proceed. To expect that I read the question merely because you have read the theory and referred the revision video is not, you are not going to be able to solve the question, at least in the first revision. Trust me, in the second revision things will flow through relatively better, and for that you need to complete your first revision properly. And when you're trying the questions, try to do most of the questions in rough. It is fine if you don't do all the questions in fair. The important 1 or 2 questions you can do, but try the questions in rough. In the second reading, you can do the important questions, but in the first revision, at least do the questions with a special emphasis on the important ones. So this is regarding the things that you should remember for your September 25 exams. I believe you would have already started your revision, or Jan 26, for which you will be in the process of starting your revision. Keep these things in mind. Whatever material you have, just rely on that material for the time being. If there were new questions added after your batch was done. They would be there on the Google Drive if you have taken classes from us. Questions, PDF amendments, everything would be there, videos, so you can refer that. But in FR there is no amendment per se in terms of changes of law, few cosmetic changes. Lastly, there are new questions which I have added, which it is advisable if you kind of practice, so that you have a clear and a holistic understanding. Okay? So with that, I'll sign off and wish you all the very best in this journey which you are starting, this very interesting and transformational journey. Don't really freak out. You will have probably relatively lesser time, and CA course is such that no matter what you do, your time is going to fall short. But this is a life-changing journey. You're going to kind of go through a lot and come out stronger and victorious at the end of it. So all power to you. Good luck, and I'll see you soon with more videos. Goodbye and take care.